Randy Lasky. I'm president of the Northspan Group, and Northspan's involved in this economic response effort. We've been facilitating this now for almost a year. So first of all, I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. This is a great turnout. We were hoping we were going to have the kind of turnout we see here tonight, and we really appreciate that. I look at the demographics here. We've got young children, we've got seniors, we've got everybody in between, and that's what I call the community. And so that's really wonderful to see tonight, because that's what this is all about. We're going to be talking about the community. We're going to be talking about what we're going to do together. And so, again, I appreciate the fact that we do have pretty broad demographics. If you saw the agenda and you've been listening to any of the outreach that we've had, tonight we're going to have an opportunity to hear about what's going on with another model, and I'm looking forward to hearing the remarks of the two gentlemen from Bemidji Leeds and also Advance Hermantown. But before we get into the agenda, I'm going to ask Ward Merrill, who's the director of Bacchus here, to share a few words with us, and he's right over there, so I'm going to bring him on over. Come on over. And I'm amiss for not saying, I want to thank Ward for donating the space, the meeting space tonight, and we appreciate that on behalf of Bacchus. So,
thank you, Randy, and thanks for a chance to say a couple words here to everybody, too. First of all, welcome to everybody to the historic Bacchus Community Center, and thanks for being here this evening. Special thanks also to Jesse Lorian, who entertained us for a bit on the big Steinway piano here before things started, too. And I'd also like to thank the organizers of tonight's meeting for having it here at Bacchus. It means a lot to us to have this group of people in the building. The building is a fitting venue for tonight's meeting. Just 14 years ago, the community struggled with the future of the Alexander Baker and the Bacchus buildings. And I know a lot of you were part of that discussion too. Would they find a new life and reuse, or would they be converted to rubble in a landfill? The story of the Bacchus building is really a story of rethinking, reuse, and economic development. Thanks to a small group of thoughtful and committed citizens who persevered in spite of naysayers, doubters, and critics, these landmark buildings were saved and put to productive use. That group formed Citizens for Bacchus, AB, a nonprofit corporation, and purchased the buildings from the school district in 2002 for $850. Some initial funds were raised by passing the hat at a meeting, garage sales, and alumni support. One child donated $11 raised from a lemonade stand to the cause. A few tenuous and shaky years followed. By 2008, the annual budget totaled $140,000. We've grown from just 2 part-time employees to 15 part-time employees and 2 full-time staff now. To date, almost $1.8 million in building improvements have been made, and the annual Bacchus budget now exceeds $538,000. The success we've had is due to community support from citizens, businesses, local government, alumni, members, patrons, and collaboration with other groups. Almost 6,000 hours are contributed annually by our volunteers. Some of them are here tonight, too. Our building was named in 1936 for the entrepreneur Edward Wellington Bacchus, who first saw the immense potential in the falls at Couchiching and the vast timberland surrounding it. E.W. Bacchus saw the potential of this area over 100 years ago and referred to International Falls as a city of destiny, one that one day might rival Minneapolis as a center for milling and trade. Although we may never rival Minneapolis, I still think of International Falls as a city of destiny, and that our best days are still ahead of us. Welcome to Bacchus this evening. I know we'll have a productive meeting. Thanks for being here.
All right, we're going to get on with the program here. I'm going to start this off. I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about why we're here, but also where we've been over the last year, because I know there's been an economic response effort. We've heard a little bit about it. we're going to give you a little more information here before we get into the discussion. Why are we here tonight? We're going to learn about the Economic Response Initiative. We're also going to learn about this model for strategic engagement. And this is all about thinking forward. This has been a very positive model that's been demonstrated not only in Bemidji and Hermantown, but in about 14 or 15 other communities around Minnesota that have taken the step that we're talking about. We need to decide tonight if this is something we want to do. Is now the time to do that? Are we prepared to do that? Are we committed to do that? And so we're going to be asking you to get engaged. And Jay's going to be talking about that a little bit later. So it's important that you think about what the messages are tonight and think for yourself, is this the time? Maybe I haven't been involved in a lot of things. Maybe this is the time that I need to think about playing a bigger role. There's a number of ways you can do that. Again, I'm not going to steal Jay's thunder yet. So it's this personal engagement conversation tonight. The economic response effort, this was organized almost a year ago, and obviously it was in response to what was going on with Boise and the loss of 265 jobs. Just to remind us, the annual economic impact of that loss of those positions is about $245 million. That's an annual impact. So, you know, we've got some ground to catch up here, and that's what this is all about. I think we have to paint the picture, and I hate to be a negative person because I'm not, I really am positive. But we saw the rest of the plant go down in the last couple, 3 years. That was about 440 jobs. Northhome's lost some folks here in the last year and a half, 2 years, with an assisted living facility. I mean, Northland Tackle, we lost 30 jobs there, not too terribly long ago. The point in all this is we've got some things going on that we need to pay attention to, and we need to decide what we're going to do about that. And the conversation tonight is we can do something about that, and that's why we're here. This initiative was really pushed forward by the city and the county. They started this effort. And we've had a leadership team comprised of 4 people. Mayor Bob Anderson, Councilor Pete Kaler, and the Commissioners Wade Pavlich and Rob Eklund. And they kind of kicked this off and said, we need to do something, we need to get organized. And so that's what we did. And there was a clear objective established at that point. I believe all of them are here this evening, and I'll call on them a little later. The other thing, and you all know this, but we had a number of the local, state, or I should say state and federal officials that were here. We had the governor here. We certainly had congressmen and senators here or their staffs. And then we've engaged some of the various agency resources that are out there. Might be behind the scenes, obviously, when the governor comes to town, we know that, but there's a lot of resources, I think, that have been in our corner, and certainly the media, whether it was Minnesota Public Radio or what we've been doing here locally to make sure we're on top of what's happening with regard to this stuff. So, Northspan, we've been involved with this. We've been facilitating this effort so far, and the Aero Regional Development Commission has been assisting us in that effort. When we kicked this off, the direction that was set for us by that leadership team was, we want you to go out in the community, bring people to the table, and let them lead this effort. We're going to get out of the way. We're going to work together with them, but it's really up to the community, up to the citizens, and they challenged us to do that. And so we did. I mean, the first thing we did was put an open public invitation out and said, join us. And we're going to put 3 teams together. Here's where they're directed, and come and be a part of that so we can figure out how we're going to deal with what's happening to us. And so that happened. And these economic response teams, and I'm going to talk about them in a minute, they decided what the mission was in those 3 areas. There was some direction, but they decided what that mission is. And they also started to put together the work plans that we're implementing today. You're going to get a feel for that. And tonight is really a kickoff for a very important part of what we've been leading up to. So, and there's been resources committed. Some of that has been state and federal. but we've had to step up as a community, and the city and the county did do that. They put resources on the table, not only their economic development staff, but in addition to that, hard dollars, so that we could match and be able to do what we've been doing. So, you know, we've all been in this together, and we've tried to leverage what we can to this point where we can. So we put together these 3 teams that I mentioned. There's actually 4, but I'll get to that. There was a worker retention and assistance team, and that was all about helping those dislocated workers immediately deal with the situation. And they stepped up, and the Workforce Center and Rainy River Community College and a variety of players in the community came forward and have been leading that. And I can't tell you how complex taking advantage of the resources have been. They have to meet one-on-one with all of these folks to be able to help them. And it's been an interesting process. The business development and retention team, we needed a team that was going to work immediately on helping some of our existing businesses that have been impacted by Boise. They could have been a major supplier for Boise. In any case, what happened is we wanted to make sure we were focusing on those immediate business needs, as well as retaining what's going on from a business standpoint. So I get it, there's a lot more than that to all of this, but I'm giving you a thumbnail sketch of what each of these teams has been doing. There's a description of that in the packet as well. Then we have this long-term vision and strategy team, and they're really the group that is put together, organized, and is hosting this event tonight, and they've got more of a longer-term focus. And it's real straightforward. They're looking at diversification of this economy, a balanced diversification. How are we going to take this community? And when I say the community, we're talking about not International Falls only. We're talking about the entire Cooch County area. We're talking about Ash River. We're talking about Captogama. And we're talking about what's going on across the river in Fort Francis. If we kid ourselves and not think that this is the economic region we all function in, then we're not understanding the dynamic that's going on, because that's the reality. The dollars move back and forth. We're all in this together. So it's just not, you know, just the county line. It's this economic region that we're in, and that's what it's about. And then we have a communications team, and we said we're going to be transparent. We want to get information out to people. We're getting there. It's taken us a while. And the co-chairs of these 3 teams are sitting on that communications team. So we're all working together to understand what's going on. That's the intent. So what do we have? We've got private citizens, businesses, nonprofits, government. They're all involved in this right now. But tonight we're going to talk about expanding that initiative. And there's good reasons to do that. Economic response funding. Everybody's wondering, well, what does this cost? Because everything costs something. And the state workforce funding that I talked about to benefit those dislocated workers, the state of Minnesota put $750,000 on the table immediately once we knew that the Boise announcement was happening, and it was going to really happen on October 1st. So that money was put into play. The Workforce Center and others stepped up and have led that. In addition to that, we sought federal trade adjustment funding and benefits. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we have a lot more resources to help train and support the dislocated workforce. And it's all about federal trade adjustment. And I don't want to get into that. The bottom line is that's $1.76 million in funding to support training for these workers that we're talking about. That's, and it's not just the Boise dislocated workers, it's also these other workers, such as Northland, tackling and so on. So that's 2 major resources. The city and the county stepped up for facilitation support. And then last spring, remember, we started this in September, really, or last summer. And by spring, we finally got a commitment out of the Federal Economic Development Administration for a couple $100,000, very important, and that's what's being used to do a lot of what we're talking about going forward tonight. So that had to be matched, so the City of International Falls, Cooch County stepped up and made a major commitment to this. And so they're in this. We're working on this, and there's dollars on the table to make that happen. And then this funding we had from the Federal Economic Development Administration is being administered by the Arrowhead Regional Development Commission, so they're partnering in all of this as well. So I'm just going to briefly run through a couple of slides and move on. This worker assistance team, they've been helping these employees. They've also been tracking these folks. So we've got people that, families are here and they're working in North Dakota, we know that. We've got people that are being trained right now. There's about 90 of our dislocated workers that are in training right now. There are others that are in kind of retirement or semi-retirement. And then there are others that left the area. Some of those left early, some of them left later. But the bottom line is we're keeping track of who those folks are and where they're at. It's very important we do that, especially if their families are still. We would like to be able to retain that workforce. And if we don't know where they are and what they're doing, we're never going to have an opportunity to bring them back. And that's always in the back of our mind here. Rainy River Community College really stepped up. They worked with the workforce folks, and they wanted to understand what did this populate, what are their skill interests going forward, and what do our businesses need going forward. And so we had to start that process. We didn't have a strategy in place yet, but we had to start that process. So that was going on. We've got this profile of available workforce and their skills, so we know who's still available and what those skills are, and we can use that for more immediate business attraction purposes, as well as making that information available to our existing employers. And there's been job fairs and all kinds of things that this group has done, and I'm just giving a thumbnail overview. The Business Development and Retention team, they've been looking at how to accelerate business assistance. I mentioned that. We're doing two things. One, we're trying to accelerate with 4, 5, 6 businesses that maybe aren't tied to Boise, that are really poised to grow. We want to accelerate, put resources behind helping those companies move forward now. So if you're one of those companies, there's some resources available through some of the grants and the other things that we have. We want to hear from you if that's the case. If you're a business that was affected by significantly by Boise, if we haven't talked yet, that's something we want to do. We want to understand how we can be helpful, and there are ways we can do that. We've got a retail marketing gaps assessment. We're going to have a study done here very shortly. It's going to be started in November. We're in the process of selecting the consultant to do that. The difference in this is we're going to be looking at the economic region. So we are, as part of this, going to be looking at Fort Francis and its area and Coochin County and International Falls community, the community I described. So that's an important piece. We felt that we needed to understand some of these gaps. And are there opportunities that we should be looking seriously at in that area? We've also called upon our area bankers to step up and help us. And they've been trying to identify some of the needs out there, help us with some of the criteria to select these businesses for assistance, and also giving us some ideas on some training workshops. So you're going to hear about some of the training coming up here in the next couple of months that the Small Business Development Center is doing. And then our long-term vision and strategy team. I already mentioned what they've been doing to get us to this point. But over and above that, there's going to be a major look at, and a data-driven look at what's going on in this economy. And we're going to be bringing in a consultant team that we're working with on this. I can get into the detail, but you're going to hear more about it. And I think this is going to be a very, very important part of helping us set the stage for what's real. What can we do? Can we change the status quo? Can we balance and diversify this economy? Let's look at the fact that Rainier has got 19 trains passing through every day, and they're going to Chicago. How do we stop them here? How do we add value here? Those are the kinds of questions that we're going to be looking at in a bigger way. And so, again, I could talk about all this in a lot more detail, and we are going to talk about it in the community because it's going to be happening going forward. But tonight, this engagement part is critical to this process. We can do studies, and we don't have any vision. I've always asked that question, what is the vision right now? What's the vision you have for the future of this area, this economy, Coochin County, International Falls? And the responses I normally get is, I'm not sure we have a clear vision. And so part of this conversation is really to focus in on that and really start deciding what it is we value, what it is we want to do together, what are those priorities. And that's this conversation. Communications team, in your packet, you're seeing reference to the the new website that we've launched today. It's been in the works for a while, but there is a ton of information about what these teams are doing, where they're going, and more importantly, there is just a lot of resources that you can directly access from that site. And so I'm not going to pull it up tonight. I hope you're going to go there and look at it. Like I said, it was just launched today. And I think you're going to be surprised to see some of the information there. We're going to put projects there. We're going to put information there. We're going to be transparent and make sure you know what's going on. So I hope you go there often and use it. We've got a new logo and tagline, and I'm going to let Sue talk about that a little bit later, how we got there with that. And so that's what's going on. I'm not going to spend any more time than that on this communications effort. So what are we accelerating? We're going to be accelerating this community vision and engagement piece. We're going to get these studies underway. We want your participation in them. The consultants we are engaging need you to be the voice to talk about and help them understand what's going on here and what's important. We're going to leverage our education and training system. We've got these resources to train. We're going to take advantage of that. There's ways to leverage what these workers that are coming out of the training here in the next year to 2 years, how are we going to take advantage of that? How do we target that with the kinds of things we can deliver here in the falls and in the Cooch County area? That's what this is about. And then quality of place and talent attraction, that's something we're going to be talking more about, because that's what's driving economic development in a lot of places today. Quality of life. People want a great place to live, and we have a great place to live here. And so talent attraction is going to become important as well. So, all right, breeze through that pretty quick. I'm serious, I could spend an hour talking about a lot of this, and it's good stuff, I believe. All right, it's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jim Benson.